And then there were four. We have got two box office matchups to look forward to in the URC this Saturday. Two semi-finals, one in South Africa between the Bulls and Leinster, one in Ireland between Munster, the holders, and Glasgow. And I'm going to get into each of them. I've got a combined team for both of them as well. And this is obviously midweek. I'll have more videos coming when the teams are announced on Friday and after the games on Saturday. So hit subscribe so you don't miss anything. Leave your comments down below. Who do you see coming through these semi-finals? Where do you think the big balance of power lies? What are the tactical things that the teams need to get right? Let me know in the comments down below. And let me start with the Bulls hosting Leinster at Loftus Versfeld. It's got a bit of history, this fixture. You only have to think back a couple of years. It was the semi-final. It was in Dublin, the first URC season, semi-final, and Bulls got a famous victory. Arguably, the biggest upset in URC history to this point was that game 2 years ago, 27-26. And that, for Leinster and Leinster fans, is where this period of pain began, because they missed out on the URC that year. They lost the Champions Cup final. The same thing happened last year, and now they've lost the Champions Cup final again. Leinster, 3 years without silverware, unthinkable given the players they've got. They will be so motivated. And this is the first time Leinster have ever sent a full-strength team to South Africa. It's going to be such a test. I cannot wait. And talking of test, it's going to feel a brilliant little warm-up to the test match that Ireland are going to play in this very stadium. And from Andy Farrell's perspective, he must be thinking brilliant. Basically, the Ireland team, wearing blue, plus a few Munster players, will be playing in just a few weeks' time at Loftus Versfeld. So yeah, for some of these players who haven't been there before, it's going to be a bit of experience which could be invaluable in only a few weeks' time when Ireland play South Africa. I'm going to be out there for those test matches and cannot wait. But one of the things that makes it very difficult to play away at the Bulls is altitude, playing on the high veld. However much you prepare for it and however fit you are, and Leinster are a very, very fit team, it gets you. Munster, the only team to have won away at the Bulls this season. And when you look at what Munster managed to do in that game, I think is exactly what Leinster are going to do. You watch out this Saturday for players from Leinster going down and needing medical treatment every few minutes. It's exactly what Munster did. And you can make up your own mind whether all of that medical treatment for Munster was necessary, or whether all the medical treatment that I'm fully expecting Leinster to be looking for will be necessary on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see how referee Mike Adamson runs that one. And it's strange to talk about that with Leinster, because they love to play at such a high tempo themselves. Jameson Gibson Park puts so much tempo on the game, but I think altitude factor, they're going to try and conserve their energy for that last 20 minutes. So I expect this to be quite a stop-start game. Whether you think that'll be deliberate or not, we'll wait and see. But like I say, it'll be interesting to see how that one is officiated. And the Bulls are very much a different kettle of fish at home. As I say, they've only been beaten by the Bulls. They are going to be going into this one, though, without two World Cup winners, possibly three World Cup winners. The two on the wings are the most significant. Marco van Staden, we're waiting to hear about him in the back row. But Kanan Moody with a thumb injury. Kurtley Arendse as well, after pulling out of the game, but after scoring 2 tries in the quarter-final last week against Benetton. That's massive. That is massive. The guys that are backing them up, Peterson and de Klerk, just not at the same level, particularly defensively. They've both got loads of wheels in attack. But the defensive work that these two do, especially Kurtley Arendse, you can't replace that. And the Bulls are a little bit leaky in defence anyway, but those two wings against Menoncello and Rotave for Benetton last week were like turnstiles, and I can imagine James Lowe will be licking his lips ahead of this weekend's game. Such a shame that they're not there. They're in a race for fitness for the test matches for the box as well against Ireland. So fingers crossed they get well soon. That said, for the Bulls personnel-wise, they may be without 3 World Cup winners potentially. We'll wait and see when the team is announced on Friday. But they're going to be massively motivated, because you look around that team, particularly in the pack, so many players who are on the fringes of the Springbok team and could convince Rassie Erasmus that they're the man to take a punt on. Maybe even as soon as these test matches against Ireland. Look at the whole Bulls front row. Even the replacement hooker, Nortier in the second row, Lowe and Hanekom in the pack. What better opportunity have you got to make a statement up against the team that South Africa face in a few weeks' time? If you're Wilco Lowe and you come away this Saturday having pummeled Andrew Porter at scrum time, well, you've just got yourself right on Rassie's radar. So massively motivated Bulls team as well for that too. And behind the scrum, Papier and Creel, you'd have to say, are in the same boat. As for a combined team, I've had a go at putting the 23 that you would expect to be picked for the Bulls and for Leinster, put them together, and what does it look like? I've taken this with Gary Ringrose. Even if he's picked, I've still gone for David Creel at 13 because Ringrose wouldn't have played much rugby. And for the same reason, I've gone for Nortier, who's been really good in the second row for the Bulls. And James Ryan is only just coming back from injury. Oh, sorry, Caelan Doris should be in dark blue there. That's Leinster. So yeah, 6 Leinstermen in the pack. All Ireland internationals, some of them British and Irish Lions. And as much as I was saying that the Bulls pack is going to be massively motivated, Hanekom up against Doris is huge matchup. Wilco Lowe up against Andrew Porter. You kind of have to pick the guys that have been there and done it at international level, don't you? Behind the scrum, it's a little bit more even. It would have been even more even. In fact, the advantage would have been to the Bulls if they'd had their wingers. I would have had Kurtley Arendse and Caden Moody on the wings. If they're unavailable, I've been forced into picking Lowe and Lama in their stead. So I can understand why the bookies have currently got this a 6-point win for Leinster. I think that's probably about right. And Arendse and Moody make a massive difference there. For what it's worth, I've got it fairly even on the bench as well. But that's my combined team. Tell me what you think down below in the comments. I cannot wait, like I say, to get there. It's only 12 days and I'm travelling to South Africa. I'm going to get to Craven Week, where I'll see loads of the under-18s, the next generation of box. I'm going to be in Pretoria for that test match. Going to be in Durban and for the second test. And I'm going to be all over South Africa as well, checking out some of the wildlife. And the whole way, I'm going to be doing it with the help of A New Hotels and Resorts, who are making this video possible and are supporting me on the trip to South Africa. And I could not recommend them enough if you are travelling from the UK or from Ireland or from anywhere, frankly, and you are heading to South Africa, whether that's for the Ireland test matches in a couple of weeks, whether that's for a holiday with your family in the future, or whether that's for a URC match in the coming season. A New Hotels and Resorts have got some amazing properties all over South Africa. I'm going to be there in Pietermaritzburg, in Hlutluwe, to go to the Umfolozi National Park, the game reserve there. Pretoria for the test match, Rudaport so I can get to Craven Week as well, and they've been so helpful. So thank you to A New Hotels and Resorts. Get to anewhotels.com as I move on to Munster against Glasgow at Thomond Park. 6 p.m. kickoff UK and Ireland time, 7 p.m. South African time for this one. The holders Munster on a 10 straight winning streak, 10 game straight winning streak. They haven't lost since New Year's Day, and they're at home where they are formidable. Glasgow have not got many wins at Thomond Park over the years, but they did win the last time they were there, last year, 38-26. Really good win for Glasgow on that night. And they've got great memories as well in big games. They beat Munster in the Pro 12 final back in 2015, going back a bit, but there's a lot of history in this fixture, and between these two Celtic cousins from across the water, you get the feeling there's a lot of respect, but there is no love lost. And I expect this to be massively physical, hugely attritional, and, well, hopefully with it being a Saturday evening, a packed out Thomond Park as well. I'm hearing that ticket sales are going really well. It being on a Friday night and a slightly earlier kickoff, 7:35, it was tough for people from Cork and around the province to get to Thomond Park. And the is it Limerick, the Gaelic football team, doing very well, which also had a big game last weekend. But hopefully Thomond Park's going to be bouncing as it can be. I expect it to be. And they're playing for a home final match against Leinster potentially, or the Bulls. Either way, that is going to be massive. Physically huge, like I say. You've got, when you look at the two teams, Munster, the bookies have got them winning by 9. And I would go with a Munster being favourites. I'd probably say Munster by 6 as well. But I definitely see this being really tight. I think it could come down to Munster's attack against Glasgow's defence. Munster, that's what they've done. They've always had a great set piece, good line out in the last couple of years. That was the bedrock of them winning the URC last year. What they've layered on top a bit last year and even more this season is their attack. Much more intricate. They actually quite like having the ball. They're happy with possession. They don't kick the ball out too often. They keep the ball in playtime high. And I think that's going to be their game plan. Glasgow are quite happy without the ball. They back their defence, as they showed against the Stormers last week. They were absolutely outstanding against the Stormers defensively. and that was the bedrock for them getting to the semi-finals too. So I think whilst Glasgow have definitely got game breakers and brilliant ball carriers, they trust their defence. Munster are quite happy to keep the ball. I think I would suggest the possession stats at the end of the game could be 65-35 Munster to Glasgow. That doesn't mean it will be a Munster win as a consequence, because like I say, Glasgow just squeezed the life out of the Stormers slowly. They weathered the storm early on and then just slowly just squeezed the life out of them and stretched away at the end. And with their back row of Fagerson and Dempsey and Darge and Xander Fagerson, who was brilliant last week against the Stormers, they've got a proper pack. As for personnel for Munster, Alex Nankervel is back and fit in training. He could be back in the midfield. If he is, I would just put him straight back in. I think Graham Rowntree will. O'Brien's been good at 12. It's good they got Frisch back last week, but Nankervel and Frisch as a combo, so good. And they're up against Sione Tuipulotu and Hugh Jones. Club and international level are class. There are matchups everywhere, and with that in mind, let me have a look at the combined team. Tell me what you think about this. If you had access to the Munster team, the Glasgow team, and you put them together, where would the combinations be? And starting with that centre partnership as well. I was so close to putting Frisch in. He's only just come back from injury. He's been brilliant this season. I've just gone for Hugh Jones because he plays so much with Tuipulotu, so I've gone for the two of them together. But Nankervel being back fit, if it had been a few weeks ago, I would have been picking Nankervel and Frisch. So that's a coin flip, that one. The back three, well balanced, well matched. Half-backs, Munster definitely have got an advantage there, although Horn was really good at scrum half for Glasgow. And then in the pack, very even. I really like the Glasgow back row. I've nudged Gavin Coombs across from number 8 to blindside flank, even above Peter Amani, because he's been playing so well, I had to get him in. Front row, it's going to be quite an interesting battle scrum time there. Osprey's got a bit of an edge on Munster at the start of the game last week. It'll be interesting to see whether Glasgow go for it. I suspect they might try and have a crack at them at scrum time. They were pretty solid against the Stormers last week. And second row, I look at the combination of the two halfbacks together, and I look at the combination of the two second rows together. I think that's where the advantage is for Munster. RG Snyman and Tadhg Beirne. It's the best club lock pairing in the world right now, for my money. And such great balance between the two. An absolute enforcer in Snyman and a line-out, breakdown, all-action, defensive, attacking weapon in Tadhg Beirne as well. The guy is just relentless. So the two of them together are just truly world-class. And I think you have to go back to like Bakis Borta and Victor Matfield for a club lock combination that's as good. Maybe Martin Johnson, Ben Kay even. So you have to go back a long time to find a club second row pairing that are as good as those two. And I think in a big game at Thomond Park, packed crowd, semi-final, big game players come to the fore. And that's where I think Jack Crowley's got the edge over his opposite number. And at second row, they're going to be the difference makers. So I'm coming down on the side of thinking Munster by 6. And Leinster by 6. So I am predicting at this stage, before I've seen the teams, and I might reassess my thoughts on Friday, I'm predicting it will be probably in Cork, wouldn't it? The big Gaelic Sports Stadium in Cork. Munster against Leinster in a URC final, which would be pretty tasty. It would be cool if the Ireland versus South Africa thing bubbled away for another week if the Bulls get the win. And if Glasgow get a win, that would be a famous victory. There's a lot on the line, a lot of edge, and I cannot wait for these games. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you on the next one.